Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. Leading the news, a 68-year-old truck driver has died after his B-double crashed into a car and then a house in Launceston. Others caught up in the horror smash are lucky to be alive after the out-of-control vehicle crossed multiple lanes of early morning traffic.
A peaceful morning shattered. This B-double truck ploughing into Anna's Invermay home just before 7 a.m.
It just went right through the house, right through 3 rooms.
The truck's 68-year-old driver died at the scene. His vehicle collided with a small hatchback after crossing 2 lanes of oncoming traffic on the East Tamar Highway before smashing into the house.
Ambulance Tasmania and emergency services attended the scene immediately, but unfortunately the driver of the truck could not be revived and was pronounced dead at the scene.
A mother and son in the hatchback were taken to the Launceston General Hospital. The mother is in a serious condition. The son is reportedly faring better. Police spending hours combing the scene, working to determine what happened.
Part of that investigation will include the circumstances and whether or not a medical episode may have contributed to this crash.
Anna only marked a year in her new home yesterday, moving to Invermay to be closer to her daughter's cancer treatment.
I felt for them. It would have been quite scary, that happening.
A pet lover, her 3 dogs are safe, but the cat enclosure on the property was directly in the truck's path.
That's really awful because my daughter hand-reared them from 3 weeks.
The road was partially reopened around 11 o'clock as crews worked to remove the vehicle. A neighbour who was first on the scene told us the truck stopped just a metre from where the owner was sitting on her couch, leaving her frozen in fear.
I can't fathom how loud it was, like the girls were saying before, that it's my brain tricking me or whatever.
Anna, her daughter and their pets have found new accommodation while their home is rebuilt.
From there on, we'll just have to live day by day. We don't know how long things are going to take.
Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
Human error is being blamed for a collision between the bulk carrier Goliath and 2 tugs in Devonport last year. A final report into the incident has found senior members on board hadn't undertaken the required training.
It's been just over a year since the bulk carrier Goliath made national headlines, colliding with 2 stationary tugs in the port of Devonport. The unmanned York Cove and Campbell Cove would later sink to the bottom of the Mersey, sparking a mammoth retrieval operation that lasted months. Now, some answers as to what caused the Australian-flagged carrier to run so dramatically off course. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau finding an incorrect steering setting was used in the moments leading up to the crash.
Now that meant that the manoeuvring orders given by the master had the unintended effect of increasing the ship's speed at a time when it should have been slowing, as it closed on the 2 tugs.
The investigation also found that neither the master nor second mate had undertaken the required bridge resource management training.
Indeed, our investigation showed that ineffective resource management was found to have contributed to this incident.
The ATSB says that particular safety issue has now been addressed by the ship's operator. And since the incident, all deck officers on board Goliath have been given the appropriate training.
As to costs, TasPorts will be working through that matter. As I'm able to say things about that in the future, I look forward to doing so, noting TasPorts are taking a strong position to protect Tasmania's interests.
In the wake of the collision, Goliath has found itself in the headlines again, briefly banned from Tasmanian waters earlier this month over an engine issue. But with the carrier's owner taking action to avoid the mistakes of the past, it's hoped there are smoother waters ahead. Melissa Raitt, 7 Tasmania News.
The scuffle at yesterday's rallies on Parliament lawns has now been referred to police. One prominent activist caught on video shoving an opposition protester.
Opposing rallies clashed on Parliament steps as trans rights counter-protesters far outnumbered anti-trans campaigners.
Yesterday was an example of an expression of democracy and people exercising their rights, freedom of speech.
Premier, yesterday outside this place, love and inclusion resoundingly defeated hate and exclusion.
The Greens leader and her family were the target of abuse at yesterday's rally. She wasn't the only one facing aggression.
You'd also have witnessed the assault of a young woman on Parliament's steps, the doorstep of our democracy, being struck and shoved repeatedly.
A protester from the Let Women Speak campaign was recorded shoving another woman there to rally for trans rights.
Go away! Don't go away! I don't care! Go away!
A video of the incident also shared widely online.
Really encourage anyone with evidence of violence or criminal activity to please report it to the police.
That incident has now been reported to police, who say they're making further inquiries. No charges have been laid. It was hoped legislation banning conversion therapy would be introduced to Parliament this year. However, it seems the language has softened in recent days. The Premier now says it will happen during this term of government, and this year if possible.
The Premier's been clear this is a complex area of law. The Premier and the Attorney-General are working through it.
I am concerned that the Premier is under enormous pressure from his backbenchers in particular and within Cabinet to water down what ought to be gold-class conversion practices banning legislation.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
A potential new flashpoint has emerged between the state government and Clarence Council, this time over Kangaroo Bay. Premier Jeremy Rockcliffe says he'll write to the City of Clarence asking for a meeting to discuss the site's future. The Planning Minister also throwing his support behind the request.
We're concerned about lost opportunities. We want to help the council and help the Eastern Shore to realise what could be very positive for our community.
I'm yet to hear from the Premier, and I look forward to receiving that correspondence.
Council voted on Monday to buy back the land from Shambroad, refusing the developer's request for another extension. The council has also censured Michael Ferguson over his intervention in the Skylands development saga. Teachers will vote on a new pay and conditions deal, with the Education Union endorsing the state government's latest offer. AEU President David Genford says there are significant benefits for schools, such as greater in-class assistance and more professional support staff. The state government has welcomed the development. North Melbourne player Taryn Thomas's return to football is on hold again. The Tasmanian is facing fresh allegations over inappropriate behaviour towards women, just 2 months after he was charged with threatening to distribute an intimate image. The Kangaroos say the former North Launceston midfielder is participating in a respect and responsibility education program. He's been told he can't attend training tomorrow while the club gathers more information. The number of Tasmanians sleeping rough has jumped nearly 50% since 2016, according to newly released census data. With nearly 2,500 Tasmanians without shelter, we now have the 4th highest rate of homeless in the country, up from the lowest rate in the previous census. Shelter Tasmania is describing the trend as shocking and not surprising, as rising rents and cost of living pressures bite. To try to ease that pressure, Glenorchy City Council is looking up in a bid to inject supply into our tight housing market. Council wants to overhaul its planning scheme to allow apartments on top or behind ground floor shops in its CBD. With an extra 60,000 people expected to live in Greater Hobart area by 2050, the Mayor says new thinking is needed to ensure the city can keep up.
We here in Glenorchy need to see at least 300 new dwellings developed each year to meet the demand for housing, and we simply need to change the way we do housing.
The proposal will go through public consultation before the Tasmanian Planning Commission has the final say. One of the nation's largest e-scooter companies will use Hobart to roll out Australian-first technology. Beam is introducing an artificial intelligence shield to its fleet, which has the ability to provide feedback and even slow down users when needed.
It's a form of transport fast becoming part of Hobart's network. The e-scooter has changed travel, but also attracted safety concerns, particularly with pedestrians. A new piece of technology is looking to improve how they're used, with Beam introducing a new shield.
We have 20 units rolling around Hobart at the moment, which is mapping the city and learning constantly.
Harnessing the growing power of AI, the device detects which surface the scooter is travelling on and provides provides feedback. It will be able to identify no-ride areas and can even prevent speeding.
On the roads, it will go up to 25 kilometres an hour. On footpaths, 15 kilometres an hour. And cycleways, it can go up to 25 kilometres as well.
Hobart is the first city in the nation with access to it. The company says the more activity each one gets, the better they become.
It's constantly upgrading, so the more it's used, the smarter it gets, and we hope to have 98-99% accuracy in the next couple of months around Hobart.
South Hobart, West Hobart and so on, this will be a very useful safety feature.
The instalment comes just before their operating permit within the city of Hobart is due to be reviewed by the middle of the year. Being confident this investment will send a message and win over those concerned.
So we're working with the council around how we can improve parking, but also just adjusting speed on footpaths so that we can slow people down.
Every last thing that we can add to safety is a really positive thing.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
With the new Spirit vessels nearing completion, more local suppliers are being awarded contracts. Tasmanian Shipping Supplies is one company benefiting from the local purchasing requirement and say this builds on the recent boost from the Neighbour icebreaker.
Skills that Tasmanians have to deliver that equipment and manufacture that equipment to support those vessels is incredible.
That's not the big prize in relation to the Spirit of Tasmania and economic development. It's the maintenance of this vessel going forward for the next 25 and 30 years.
The Transport Minister says the build of the 2 new ferries is on time. They're due to be delivered in the first and last quarters of next year. It's a history class snowballing into a real-life lesson on the impact of war. Exeter High School students have taken what they've learnt about the war in Ukraine and joined a global union against the conflict.
Promoting peace from Exeter.
Here we go.
Unveiling a peace pole at their school, Exeter High students are rallying together to give back to those in Ukraine.
It means everything.
We were like, let's do something bigger than what we are.
The peace pole has the message, may peace prevail on earth.
The idea stemming from a history lesson on conflict last year.
There were kids our age going through war that we couldn't even think of going through ourselves. So we wanted to do something that was bigger than the school. So we decided to raise money for a shelter box.
It has a tent and it has necessities for someone to survive. So a water filter, a solar heater, a light, those sorts of things, just to help families survive if they don't have a home anymore.
Working with the West Hamar Rotary Club, our future leaders have now raised more than $4,000 for those impacted by the war.
It's just crazy to think that much because we were aiming for only 1,000 and we've gone well above that, so we can help support more people.
These students are very creative, very inspirational, and they had such a big heart for the people of the Ukraine, in particular students in schools who were going through a tough time.
A local effort with global proportions.
Дякую вам всім. You've done an absolutely outstanding job.
McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
A Clifton Beach couple is feeling the love after being flooded with nominations for Neighbour of the Year. The award coming as a shock to them, but not to anyone else.
Calling Clifton Beach home for more than 30 years, Kathy and Ian White are known, loved and respected by their community. And it's no surprise why.
I can remember once helping a neighbour's elderly mother who with dementia that was lost.
I live 400 metres from the beach and it takes about an hour sometimes to get to the beach because you just stop and chat.
Their selfless generosity is being officially recognised by the Clarence City Council, awarding Kathy and Ian Neighbour of the Year.
There was fantastic response from across the city, but overwhelmingly, Clifton Beach voted, it would seem, in unison for Ian and Kath. Some of the comments were, if you want something done, give Whitey a call.
But the humble parents aren't doing it for the limelight.
It just makes your life better, you know. If someone can knock on your door and you welcome them in or whatever, it's just nice to be nice.
All Tasmanians are now encouraged to take a page out of the White's book.
We're not just neighbours, we're friends, and a lot of them, you know, we're family.
Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanians have poured into Parliament House to congratulate Sisters Creek business owner Melissa Dunniam for receiving the 2023 AgriFutures Rural Women's Award. Melissa is the founder of Leading Rain, where teams learn communication skills by working with horses and each other.
For me, it was like, how can I integrate something that I know has taught me a lot about myself personally and professionally, which is horsemanship and training horses, that I can bring back in and value to teams in the ag industry.
Melissa will receive $15,000 to continue her work. She'll also represent the state at the National Awards in September.
The Hobart Tigers look set to play in the SFL this season, but only in the reserves competition. Stronger training numbers on Monday convinced board members they can field at least one team. The club will write to the league asking for permission to drop out of the seniors. The Tigers president also confirming a committee has been formed, looking at ways to avoid a repeat next year.
The football operations people, past players, coaches, etc. That will look to build to 2024 to a full program. We want to be a seniors, reserves, under-19s and a women's side in our program.
The SFL is expected to make a final decision next week. A Greek international player is the latest addition to the Hobart Chargers women's lineup. Angeliki Vinceleu has signed on for the NBL 1 side. The 24-year-old has finished her season in Poland and has also played in Turkey and Italy. The Chargers head coach says her physical style of play is just what they were looking for.
Really looking forward to how that's going to look, and hopefully it will continue to help us teach the rest of our team to play that way.
And the Launceston Tornadoes will welcome a familiar face back to the side. Point guard Micah Simpson will return after playing for Bendigo in the recent WNBL season. Meanwhile, our UTAS basketballers are back on court for round 2 of the University Basketball League. Tasmania dominating the women's competition, with Hope Brooks solidifying Tassie's lead in the third quarter with this three-pointer.
Banks wanting to create space. Hope Brooks, she's taken a few jumpers. YMCA, Ronnie. We'll add that one there. Another deep shot, so 26 points the margin here.
UTAS defeating ACU this afternoon 81-53, while it was a similar fate in the men's contest with UTAS in front from the outset, eventually ending the game with a huge 46-point margin, a major recovery from last week's loss to Victoria University.
Losing that game was really tough. We came out really strong. Second half wasn't the best, but we wanted to make a statement tonight because we do feel we are one of the better teams in the league. ACU, they're pretty tough as well, but we executed really well tonight. We've got a great group of guys and having a lot of fun together.
UTAS will take on Sydney next week in round 3.
Good evening. 17 degrees in Hobart today. Launceston recorded 20, Devonport 19 and Burnie 18. Maximum was 21 at Strawn. The west, the only area above average. King Island 20, Lowhead 18, Grove, Flinders Island and Friendly Beaches all 17. St Helens a high of 16 degrees. We did have low-level cloud over the east and southeast. A few showers through Bass Strait. The top fall just 7 millimetres at Swan Island to 3 p.m. Scattered areas of afternoon convective cloud holding thunderstorms sit over the tropics, central WA and southern New South Wales. Tomorrow, a low moves to the east of Tasmania, a trough dominant through central Australia and Victoria. Winds west-southwesterly to 20 knots over the west, with variable winds elsewhere at similar speeds, lighter winds inland. Hobart, a possible shower, 21 the top, 40% chance, so I'd bet on that. 20 for Cygnet, a possible shower, cloudy for New Norfolk and 22 degrees. Launceston shooting for 24, partly cloudy. Cloudy for Devonport, 21 the high and 23 the top for Campbelltown. Burnie expecting 21. A cloudy day. Cloudy for Strawn, 19 and also for Smithton, 22. A few showers down the east coast though. St Helens 20, 21 for Swansea and Fingal. UV continues at 6 tomorrow, just in the high range. On Friday, the chance of a shower over the northeast and southwest. The weekend's looking all right though. Fine and partly cloudy for most on Saturday. Sunny over the east. Similar weather forecast for Sunday, Hobart 21 and Launceston 23. A sunny 29 in Perth tomorrow, fine as well in Adelaide. A shower forecast for Melbourne, 24 degrees there. Heavier showers over Sydney and a cloudy 29 in Brisbane. A little cloudy over Hobart, it's 15, 17 in Launceston right now, Devonport cloudy and 16 degrees. A bit of time left before home and away, Kim. You need to stretch it just a little bit to make the time up.
We'll just put another ad on. That's all your news for now. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
That's all? That's it?